know how many women stand at the edge of their own power, trembling, unsure, gazing into the abyss of their unclaimed potential? The world whispers that they must dim their light, shrink their desires, and mold themselves into shapes that please others. Yet, deep within, a primal force stirs, a spark of the divine feminine, a whisper of the goddess archetype, yearning to break free from the chains of doubt and societal expectation. This is not just a fleeting feeling, it is the call of the soul, beckoning toward wholeness, toward individuation, toward a life lived with unapologetic authenticity. To answer this call is to embark on a journey through the shadowed valleys of the psyche, where the raw materials of empowerment are forged in the fires of self-awareness and stoic resilience. The feminine psyche, as Carl Jung illuminated, is a tapestry woven with threads of light and shadow. The anima, the inner feminine, dances between the conscious ego and the uncharted depths of the unconscious. She is both muse and mystery, a force that can guide or destroy, depending on whether she is honored or ignored. Many women, conditioned by a world that demands compliance, suppress this inner goddess, projecting their unmet desires onto others, lovers, friends, or even societal ideals. This projection, Jung warned, is a trap. It binds the soul to external validation, tethering a woman's worth to the fleeting approval of others. But what happens when the mirror of the world cracks? What happens when the masks fall and the raw, unfiltered self stands exposed? Consider the woman who chases love, believing it will complete her. She pours her energy into another, hoping their gaze will reflect her value. Yet, in this act of seeking, she unknowingly fragments herself. Jung's concept of the shadow looms large here. The unacknowledged parts of the self, the fears, insecurities, and suppressed desires that fester in the dark. The shadow is not an enemy, but a teacher. It holds the key to wholeness. For within its depths lie the qualities a woman has been taught to reject: her anger, her ambition, her unapologetic need to take up space. To embrace the shadow is to confront these truths, to sit with the discomfort of one's own imperfection, and to emerge stronger, more integrated, more alive. Now pause for a moment. What parts of yourself have you buried? What desires have you silenced because they felt too big, too bold, too unworthy? The world may have told you that your hunger for more love, more power, more freedom, is selfish. But what if that hunger is the voice of your soul demanding to be heard? Shadow work is not a gentle process. It requires courage to face the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide. It demands that you look into the mirror of your psyche and see not just the polished facade, but the raw, untamed essence beneath. This is where empowerment begins, not in the approval of others, but in the radical acceptance of every facet of your being. Stoicism, the philosophy of Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, offers a blueprint for this journey. These ancient thinkers understood that true strength lies not in controlling the external world, but in mastering the internal one. Seneca wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." For the woman seeking empowerment, This is a clarion call. The chaos of relationships, the sting of rejection, the weight of societal judgment, these are not the arbiters of your worth. They are merely events, neutral in their essence, to which you assign meaning. To adopt a Stoic mindset is to reclaim the power to choose your response, to stand unshaken amidst the storms of life. Imagine a woman who has been betrayed, her heart shattered by a lover's indifference. The pain is real, visceral, a wound that threatens to define her. Yet through the lens of Stoicism, she learns to separate the event from her interpretation of it. The betrayal is not a verdict on her value. It is simply a moment in time, a circumstance beyond her control. What she can control is her response. She can choose to nurture her pain, letting it fester into resentment, or she can choose to release it, using the wound as a catalyst for growth. This is the Stoic path to resilience, not the absence of pain, but the refusal to let pain dictate the future. The journey of empowerment is also a dance with the masculine and feminine energies within. Jung's concept of the animus, the inner masculine, speaks to the logic, ambition, and assertiveness that complement the intuitive, nurturing qualities of the anima. For too long, women have been taught to suppress one or the other, to prioritize softness over strength, or ambition over empathy. But true individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires the integration of both. The empowered woman is not one who rejects her softness for power, or her power for softness. She is the alchemist who blends these energies, creating a harmony that radiates from within. This integration is not without its challenges. The modern world, with its relentless demands and idealized images, often pulls women away from their center. Trauma, whether from childhood wounds or adult betrayals, can fracture the psyche, leaving scars that whisper lies of unworthiness. Modern psychology teaches that healing these wounds requires not just awareness, but action. It requires naming the pain, sitting with it, and then releasing it through practices like journaling, therapy, or meditation. It requires reclaiming the narrative of one's life, rewriting the story from victim to victor. Picture a woman standing at the crossroads of her life. One path leads to the familiar, a cycle of seeking approval, dimming her light, and conforming to expectations. The other path is uncharted, lined with the shadows of her fears and the brilliance of her potential. To choose the latter is to embrace the unknown, to trust in the resilience of her spirit. This is where Stoic philosophy and Jungian psychology converge. The Stoics teach that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every rejection, every heartbreak, every moment of self-doubt is an opportunity to grow, to refine the self, to step closer to individuation. Consider the archetype of the warrior goddess, figures like Athena or Durga, who embody both compassion and ferocity. This archetype lives within every woman, waiting to be awakened. She is the force that rises when boundaries are crossed, when injustice demands action, when the soul cries out for freedom. To channel this archetype is to reject passivity, to refuse to be a bystander in one's own life. It is to stand tall, to speak with conviction, to move through the world with the quiet confidence of one who knows her own power. Yet this power is not about domination or control. It is about presence, about occupying space fully and authentically. The empowered woman does not shrink to fit the expectations of others, nor does she expand to overshadow them. She exists in balance, a living paradox of strength and vulnerability, logic and intuition, fire and water. This balance is the heart of Jung's individuation, the process of becoming whole by embracing all that one is, light and shadow alike. As the journey deepens, the woman begins to see the world through new eyes. Relationships, once a source of validation, become mirrors for self-discovery. Love, once a desperate pursuit, transforms into a choice, a mutual dance between two whole beings, not a crutch for incomplete ones. The Stoic principle of amor fati, the love of fate, becomes her guide. She embraces every experience, every joy, every sorrow, as a thread in the tapestry of her becoming. She learns to let go of what no longer serves her, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the lessons it brought. This letting go is not a loss, but a liberation. It is the shedding of old skins, the release of stories that no longer define her. Modern trauma psychology teaches that healing is not about erasing the past, but about reframing it. The wounds of yesterday are not chains, but stepping stones, each one leading closer to the self. The empowered woman does not run from her pain. She walks through it, emerging on the other side with a heart that is both tender and unbreakable. Now imagine standing in the fullness of your power. Feel the weight of external expectations fall away, like leaves in an autumn wind. Sense the quiet strength that rises when you no longer seek approval, but instead create it from within. This is the gift of shadow work, of Stoic resilience, of Jungian individuation. ... It is the realization that you are not a fragment, but a universe, whole and complete, with galaxies of potential swirling within you. The woman who walks this path does not chase love, success, or validation. She does not bend to the whims of a world that seeks to define her. Instead, she chooses. She chooses her truth, her boundaries, her destiny. And in that choice, she finds freedom. Not the fleeting freedom of external approval, but the eternal freedom of a soul at peace with itself. She becomes the architect of her own life, building from the foundation of her own worth, unshakable, radiant, whole. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.